clown shoes and my red nose.
Parking lot, night. The camera is grainy, angled high from a building-mounted unit. You can see a cluster of bodies in the lot of Wesley Square Apartments. Arms swinging, hair pulling, voices cracking through the audio like static. Get the F out of her. Come on, move. Let her hair go. Then a new figure enters the frame. Walking in, not running, hands not balled up. She's not there to throw. She's there to pull people apart. That's Asia Stewart.
Hi, my name is Asia, Saucy Asia, and I'm at Wilmore. I'm hiding a motherfucker right now. I'm pissed off, but
She's been awake for over 20 hours. 16 of those were spent working a security shift. Her body is done, but her phone rang and her sister needed her. 30 seconds after she steps into that frame, a gun comes out. Asia Stewart was last seen alive at approximately 12:50 a.m. on February 8, 2026, in the parking lot of Wesley Square Apartments on Calhoun Road in Houston's Sunnyside neighborhood. She was 26, a mother of 4, the youngest was 3. She never left that parking lot on her own. The internet asked one question after this happened. Was Asia fighting, or was she just trying to break it up? That's the wrong question. The right question is this: why was a woman with a loaded gun in her waistband standing in a crowd of people she had already threatened to shoot, and nobody stopped her? Think about that for a second. If you've been following these files, you know how this works. The headline gives you one story, the evidence tells you something else. So let's open this one properly. Asia Stewart grew up in Houston. She lived loud, posted silly videos from Walmart, joked about her deep voice, told her kids she'd call their daddy, their papa, and their teacher if they acted up. 3 whoopings minimum. She was the friend who showed up, the cousin who answered the phone, the sister who drove across town at 1 in the morning after working 16 hours straight because somebody she loved said they needed her. Her father, Carlton Stewart, had poured into her. His words. He taught her conflict resolution, taught her to stop, think, then act. He said that voice was always in her ear even when she didn't listen to it. She had 4 kids, 11, 8, 6, 3. She worked security to feed them. The night she died, she wasn't even supposed to be at Wesley Square. She was supposed to be in bed. Here's where it gets layered. This wasn't a one-night blow-up. Court documents show this thing had been simmering since at least February 5th, a multi-day dispute between several women in and around the Wesley Square complex. The details of the original beef are murky. He said, she said, layered on top of social media back and forth, the kind of thing that festers when nobody in the room knows how to put it down. By February 7th, tensions hit a wall. Asia's sister was tangled up in it. Somebody called Asia. Somebody told her it was about to go down again. Asia had just clocked out of a 16-hour security shift. Her body was screaming for sleep. She got in the car anyway. She pulled up to Wesley Square Apartments sometime before 1 a.m. The parking lot was already a mess. Multiple women, voices up, the kind of energy where everybody's chest is puffed, but nobody's thinking 3 moves ahead. Among the crowd was 25-year-old Dasja Wilmore. Wilmore had come to back her own friend, but here's the thing. Wilmore came strapped. Witnesses told investigators she had a handgun tucked into her waistband, and she wasn't quiet about it. According to charging documents filed in the 178th Criminal District Court, witnesses heard Wilmore shout, "If you touch my friend, I'll shoot you." Not whispered, not implied, said out loud while carrying a loaded weapon. Nobody left. Nobody called the police. The fighting continued. Asia moved into the group. Witnesses say she was trying to separate people, pulling arms, getting between bodies, doing what her father taught her. Then Wilmore turned on Asia. Investigators describe what happened next as Wilmore bucking at Asia, an aggressive lunge forward, a shove, the kind of move designed to provoke. Asia swung. One swing, reactive, the kind of thing your body does before your brain catches up. Wilmore pulled the gun. Close range. Abdomen. The parking lot cracked open with gunfire. Asia went down. People scrambled. Someone, it's not clear who, loaded Asia into a private vehicle. No ambulance, no 911 first, just a car tearing toward Bentab Hospital with a dying woman in the back seat and a clock that had already run out. Asia Stewart was pronounced dead at the hospital. She was 26 years old. I want to stop here for a second, because this is the moment the internet split. Some people said Asia jumped into the fight, that she swung first, that Wilmore had a right to defend herself. Others said Wilmore showed up armed, made verbal threats to kill, initiated the physical contact, and then shot a woman who reacted to being shoved. Where do you land? Drop it in the comments. One word is fine: defense or murder. I want to see where this audience sits before we go further. Wilmore didn't stay. Following her shooting of Asia, she drove out of Wesley Square in a car. But she wasn't done. Witnesses said that on her way out, she shot several additional shots at the parking lot, at people who were running, Asians who were attempting to assist. Nobody else was hit. But think about that. She is pulling away a woman she has shot in the stomach, and she is still drawing the trigger. That's not self-defense panic. That's something else. Wilmore went into the darkness of Houston, whether 4 days she was in the wind. Carlton Stewart did not wait to hold a press conference. He did not wait till journalists come knocking on his door. He did not allow another person to determine the account of who his daughter was. He went live. The same forums through which his daughter could laugh, to make jokes, to see who could be here, became the one on which he could collapse in front of the world. No script, no media training, nothing but a father and a phone, and a heart aching he did not know how to fit into his chest. I am not going to say it is a good morning, as it is not a good morning. I'm heartbroken. My chest has been torn open in my heart. It had no performance in it, no dramatic pause. His voice broke in spots which he did not attempt to conceal. One might hear the exhaustion, the disbelief, the manner in which trauma causes sentences to sound lopsided. He didn't threaten revenge. He did not shout the name of the accused woman in the camera. He claimed that he was giving her family grace, yet his own family had not received any. That detail mattered. He held back in an instance when he could have gotten very angry, not because he wasn't furious, but he knew something bigger of cycles. Then he widened the lens. Instead, he merely pointed at Wilmore. He pointed at the crowd, at the adults who stood there, at the folks of his own generation who gawked and nodded, when the phones were held up in the air and were recording what would be later on be heard as evidence, rather than hands being raised so as to at least push two women apart before it got out of hand. We used to have adults out there in my age group who would sit there and watch kids fight. That line landed hard. It makes a second question go out of guilt and innocence. Where did community responsibility go? At what point will conflict be content? The parking lot contained adult men and women, not teenagers, not children, adults, and none of them got involved physically in the encounter before it got out of control. That is an embarrassing thing to say, but he said it. Carlton answered that he would have been there, and nothing of the sort would have been. He would have grabbed Asia, grabbed her sister, grabbed her cousins, dragged them home himself. No fighting it would have been had I been out there. I would have spanked the ass of Asia. I would have broke her jaw, and I know anyone that knows me knows I am not lying. Paper-wise, the sentence is violent. Contextually, it is a regretful reading. It wasn't about harming her. It was about discipline, about intervention, of halting an undesirable decision before it encountered a loaded gun. He wasn't glorifying force. He was uttering an excruciatingly human thing. I was expected to be the wall, the one that arrives and closes it down. And he wasn't there. Parents have a certain form of post-loss guilt, even in cases when they could not make any realistic predictions of the moment. They repeat situations which never occurred. If I had left work early, if I had called one more time, if I had driven over there, if I had been present. It's irrational, and it's real. In the same live video, he addressed Wilmore, not outrage, but out expectation. He told her he wasn't mad, he was hurt. He reminded that she had a child as well, that somewhere another child would have to grow up with the name of his or her mother for whom a murder charge was filed. He claimed that he was supposed to be accountable, the highest standard of it. Accountability is a heavier word than punishment. It means accountability, ownership, confronting that which has been done, without justification. Then he said something that changed the whole conversation. "We didn't just lose Asia. We lost that little girl, too." He was not telling that Wilmore was dead. He was telling the version of her that had preceded the disappearance of this parking lot, the one that was capable of going home to her child without being handcuffed, the one that is not indicated by a courtroom docket. Two black mothers, he said, missing out of the same parking lot. One physically buried. One was buried within a system legally, and now is to become her years in defining. Such an opinion does not take away the past. It fails to make the charge any less serious, but it reveals the extent of the damage. Violence is not limited to the victim. It radiates.
The morning of Carlton was not melodious. It was like a sleepless man, similar to a person who had gone through old pictures at 3 in the morning, similar to a person who had to tell a young kid, age 11, how their mother is not coming back. He did not ask for sympathy. He asked for reflection. He had requested adults to behave like adults. He urged parents to learn their children to walk away. He asked for standards. And in the midst of that, he had one truth which most of us would have found it difficult to acknowledge in life, namely that this was not a matter of one trigger pull. It was concerning a culture that enabled a tussle to be turned into an act rather than a state of affair that required action. The parking lot is quiet now. The phones on that recording night are in pockets. The live stream is archived, but the father's words remain. "I" does not mean that they were flawless, because they were honest. This is the first time you have seen us here, so this is what we do at Last Seen Files. We are opening case files which the algorithm covers, one case at a time, no rush, no sensationalism, just the record. To take this one through trial, and the second file when it drops, the subscribe button is there. Imagine that he or she is leaving the folder open. February 12th was not dramatic. No flashing lights through the barricaded street, no helicopter footage, no neighbors who were shooting through their balconies. The next morning, Houston police found Wilmore and moved in and arrested her without resistance. No chase, no negotiation. It was only a silent arrest after 4 days of increasing pressure. Investigators had already reconstructed surveillance footage, witness accounts, and ballistic evidence off the parking lot at the Wesley Square by that time. Detectionists had scanned the complex, banged at doors, looked at cell phone videos, and recreated the chronology to the second. The arrest was not reactive, it was deliberate. Wilmore was shipped and charged to Harris County Jail. The charge, murder. That is a loaded word in Texas. It is an indication that the prosecutors have a belief that intent, recklessness, or extreme escalation overstepped a legal boundary which cannot be attributed as a mistake. She was due to be brought before the 178th Criminal District Court. She has been charged with the case being processed in the system, and with the latest court filings, she is still detained. Victory was not proclaimed at any press conference. No authorities were at a stand calling it justice, since an arrest is not a solution. It is the onset of a legal tussle that will be conducted in motions, hearings, and testifying. And in the center of it all, one question that the court will be forced to answer is, was this self-defense or was it murder? This is where the subject of discussion turns into emotion to law, and the law is cold. In Texas, self-defense laws permit an individual to employ deadly force when he or she believes they are under an immediate obligation to defend themselves against the application of unlawful deadly force by another. The most important words are reasonable belief and immediately necessary. Such an entry point is not fear itself. Proportionality, timing, and the person who caused the danger are proportional, timely, and who caused the danger, respectively. The defense's case is easy to understand. Asia swung first. Wilmore was in dread of severe bodily injury. Wilmore returned with the weapon that she had. That is how a number of self-defense cases are presented on the surface. However, researchers noted a number of facts that render that account confusing. Wilmore came with a loaded gun. Before confrontation intensified, the handgun was in her waist. Even before the physical fight escalated, witnesses testified that she made verbal threats that she would shoot. There was surveillance and statements that she initiated contact by shoving Asia, who is described in the report as bucking at her. It was followed by the swinging of Asia. The initiator of the physical aggression is an issue in legal analysis. When one incites a fight, they will not be allowed any right to invoke self-defense unless he or she makes a clear withdrawal and communicates it. Another problem is the problem of escalation. In the first shot that hit Asia, Wilmore was reported to have fled the scene and fired more in the direction of the bystanders. That is not the fact that will pass in the court as a footnote. Prosecutors will claim that it is a sign of recklessness and is yet another form of use of force, even in the absence of an immediate threat. Self-defense is concerned with cessation of hazard, not chasing it, not expanding it. The case presented by the prosecution, according to the charging documents, is that Wilmore had created the volatile conditions, put the weapon into the tussle, and pushed beyond what any reasonable person would have thought was reasonable. The defense will argue that a moment of perceived danger will warrant a split-second decision. Those stories will eventually be tested by 12 jurors. They will examine video, listen to witnesses, review ballistics, parse language, frame by frame analyze the movement. This debate in the society is emotional. The legal argument will be operative. But facts do not bend easily, and each second will count that is recorded. As the legal arguments are being formed in an air-conditioned courtroom, the effects of what transpired in that parking lot reside somewhere in a completely different place. The family of Asia met at the Wesley Square a few days later. Balloons were raised up into the air, floating above the same asphalt that police tape had once severed. A little shrine was created there where she lay. The pressed flowers against the concrete, candles vibrated with the evening wind, pictures of her smiling at the moments that were not related to violence. Neighbors stood quietly, some angry, some numb, some simply exhausted. The cameras eventually left, the crime scene indicators were lost, but the absence stayed. The next morning, 4 children got up without a mother. The oldest is 11, soon enough to restate the previous conversation, large enough to comprehend the dates of the court, bond hearings, and the term murder, enough to be angry with grief overlaid, young enough to bear recollections never struck down. The youngest is 3. At 3 years old, he is too young to know why the house is different. She is too young to recall how she used her tone in singing or how she had her hair done before school. She is too young to remember the late-night shifts she had to work to ensure that there were lights on and food in the house. There will be stories, photos, videos, yet there will be no living memory. That is another form of lostness. Aisha worked long hours, according to the family members, 16-hour shifts, the type of schedule that exhausts an individual but makes them proud. She was said to be tough where she had to be tough, funny when she could be funny, and fierce in ensuring she got her kids taken care of. The violence did not only destroy life, it fractured a structure, childcare routines, school pickups, bedtime rituals, financial stability, emotional anchors. The ripples of those fractures run away. Wesley Square is not the first community to have a vigil. They understand how to sit around candles. They understand how to sing in favor of justice. They understand how to embrace one another in car parks, even after the news is over. However, every time it is new to the family on the center. In every case of it, you find children being forced to mature earlier than expected. The court will determine the legal standard of murder or self-defense in the actions of Wilmore. Lawyers will argue statutes. Professionals will witness concerning direction and purpose. Jurors will deliberate. And out of that court, 4 children will continue to wake up without their mother. That is the aspect that no decision can be turned back. That is what was left behind. Here's what this file comes down to. A woman finished a long shift, got a call, drove to help her sister, tried to stop a fight, got shoved, swung back, got shot, died. Every one of those steps made sense in the moment. Every one of them was a door she walked through that she couldn't walk back out of. The woman who shot her made her own set of choices, brought a gun, made threats, started the physical contact, pulled the trigger, fled, fired more shots on the way out. Carlton Stewart said it plainest. This could have worked out a better way. He's right. It could have. At a dozen different points, someone could have changed the ending, but nobody did. At Last Seen Files, we say this every time. The last record is never the full truth. There's always something the camera didn't catch, something the witnesses didn't say, something the file doesn't hold. But what the file does hold is enough. Aisha Stewart was last seen alive, trying to do the right thing in a place where doing the right thing got you killed. One last thing before you go. The father of Aisha posed such a question none of us has answered yet. How do we expect kids to resolve their problems without violence when we have never been shown how to do it? And in case you have an answer, or that question has been lying too heavy in your chest, deposit it below. Not for the algorithm, for the file. We'll see you in the next one.